Um, so, so thank you so much for joining today's session. My name is Ryan Falkenberg. I'm CEO of CLEVVA, and I'm delighted to be joined by David Williams, who heads up DigiBlu in the UK. And together, what we are really hoping to offer you in the next 30 minutes is a bit of an insight into what virtual agents are really becoming, and the type of work that they're performing, and more importantly, how they're starting to really differentiate from the standard chatbot ideas and live chat that we've currently got out there, which is talking to the self-service, and really give you a practical understanding of then how that works with a utilities use case that DigiBlu have recently succeeded in. And that David will walk you through and give you some real practical insights into how a virtual agent can handle payments and collections, for example, and dramatically lower the cost to serve. And then at the end of it, we'll offer anyone who's interested the opportunity to register for a lucky draw, and the winner will be given a free prototype that talks to their reality and just demonstrates how a virtual agent could target, for example, a collections or payments or dispute issue without having to bring in a human in the loop. So just for those who aren't aware of CLEVVA as a company, quickly, we're a specialist in virtual agents. So we build, deploy, and manage virtual agents using our bespoke technology. And these virtual agents really are focused on the sales and support query space and resolving those at a lower cost than other channel alternatives. So we really are trying to help in the customer service space, give a virtual agent to a customer that can handle a significant volume of their queries, issues, disputes, etc., and allow human agents to rather tackle the higher quality, high value conversations that aren't as rule-based. These virtual agents that we build, they perform the front office work of human agents. So they will qualify leads, they will analyze a customer's needs, for example, they will offer sales advice, they'll resolve billing and service queries, they can collect debt, and they can retain customers. So when you think of a human agent in a contact center and the types of conversations that they can have and the types of queries that they can resolve, virtual agents are really trying to do a lot more of that in the same level of accuracy, in fact, at a greater level of accuracy, and handling the type of context that has historically been so difficult to handle. So when we started out with this virtual agent concept, I think most companies would have started with a chatbot. And they've been really great in that they've given us the ability to do or to converse in natural language with a customer. The challenge that we've had with them is that while their language center is so powerful and effective, often the brain is less impressive. And really what chatbots have done for us is they've acted as infobots. What they can do is they can ask one or two questions, and then they can go and find data for us. So they can give you a link to a document or a web page, or they can go and make a call to one of the operating systems, for example, and give you your balance. So if you have questions such as what loans do you offer, the chatbot can potentially give you either a list of them or a direct access to a brochure or a web page. And while that's been really helpful, so many of the inbound and outbound engagements with customers are not about getting information, because most of us can get that on the website. We are there to really get something done. And so we've seen the migration to the next generation, really, of virtual agent, which were more transact bots. Now, what they've been better at is getting requests done for you, so that when you come in and you say, can you top up my data, for example, with 50 gigs, they can actually execute that. So that's a large amount of where we've been seeing the automation of customer service requests happening, is that I have a request, it's clear to you, it's contained, and all that needs to happen is that request needs to be executed. And so we can give you, for example, a dynamic form, we can capture the information, and then we can process that for you. And that's really great when I want stuff done, and potentially when my app doesn't help me do that. The challenge that we've experienced with both the infobots and the transact bots is that while they can execute a information-related request or a transactional-related request, where they come unstuck is when you have a query, for example, or a dispute, something which requires context. There are rules, and you actually need to be able to first diagnose what the issue is, or the need, or, for example, the complaint, identify solutions, and then process it. And if I'm asking, for example, why is my bill so high? Well, it depends. The answer depends on so many variables. I might need to understand what's in your bill. I may need to understand the variables that could have caused a bill or a bill shock happening. And so there's this diagnostic capability that those early stage virtual agents were very limited at. And so what we started to see is all roads led to a live agent, a human, who was waiting there to pick up on that query or dispute, and then to be able to take over in a live environment. So essentially, it wasn't a digital or virtual agent, it was a human agent operating through a digital channel. So you still had the challenge of having a live trained person ready to answer and take over a conversation. And handling that type of level of spike and capacity is really costly and challenging, particularly when the answers are quite rule-based. It's just that context matters. And this is where the third generation of virtual agents have kicked in, where we are now able to get these virtual agents operating at the level of a human expert, and that they can handle these queries without having to pass on to a human agent, so that you can have one-touch resolution on a significant number of query types, as opposed to what was historically really a fractional deflection, and then most of it being channeled back into contact centers. These virtual agents really, by deflecting more through multiple digital channels, so for example, a WhatsApp channel, a website, your app, as well as email. So any inbound as well as outbound engagement can be handled by a virtual agent. And they can then directly work either through RPA or digital workers into operating systems, or directly if the APIs are there, to resolve these queries in one touch. And as a result, what you start seeing is the quality of the calls coming into voice channels change. They become far more high-value conversations, much more around relationship, needing EQ, being able to have empathy, being able to be culturally aligned, add humor, etc. Those type of calls become the calls that enter the assisted channels. And they're lower volume, so you're not chasing your average handling times and just trying to process with human agents. That's being performed by virtual agents. Human agents can have far richer, more meaningful engagements and really add to the customer experience. I referred earlier to the two types of roles these virtual agents can perform. So the one is an inbound agent. So if a customer has, for example, a dispute or a query, and they come in either one of those digital channels, what will happen is that this virtual agent can do three important things. The first is that they can clarify the intent. They can make sure that they don't just jump to a conclusion and try and offer you an answer before they fully understand what is it that you're asking. And that's an important capability, is the ability to fully clarify what it is that you're asking. The second is to then analyze what, if you are expressing a need, to analyze those needs, understand the full gambit of those needs, the related needs, the inferred needs. If it's a problem that you're dealing with, is to be able to do a root cause analysis of that problem. And if it's a situation you're describing, it's to be able to understand and do a full situational analysis, so that all the variables are understood before the virtual agent moves to resolving it, identifying the right solutions to resolve it, not just now, but actually in the future. And then once those solutions are identified, to make sure that the resulting actions are handed over to operational systems for processing. And that role of an inbound is very, very powerful, because it can significantly lower those volumes coming in. But what's also interesting is these virtual agents are getting good at outbound. So when you are, for example, having an outbound call center, and you've got huge lists of potential leads, and you're getting a 2 to 3% success rate on those calls, it's a very costly exercise. Whereas you can now start using a virtual agent to engage first with the customer, do the analysis, the validation, the qualification that they are in fact a right match, they have an interest, and then to pass it across to the human agent to have that final conversation and have the closure rates far higher. but not only in need analysis, also in actually completing the sale digitally, as well as doing proactive servicing, are very, very powerful use cases we're seeing from outbound agents and really lowering the cost of sales as well as proactive servicing. In order to do those two roles, what we're finding is that there's some important capabilities virtual agents need to have, which often the former virtual agents, the Gen 1 and Gen 2, lacked. So the first one is they need to be able to have hyper-personalized, structured and rule-bound engagements, not these unstructured conversations. Most CX engagements are structured. And so can you have a rule-based structured conversation that is not bound by decision tree thinking, that you don't then get trapped by old logic models, but that you can have a dynamic, hyper-personalized one that sticks to rules. The second is that you are able to classify, as I mentioned, the real intent before jumping to an assumption. And this ensures that when the virtual agent is dealing with the customer intent, they don't get frustrated up front, that you keep misunderstanding them. But then once you understand them, that you can analyze, you can assess, and you can diagnose. In other words, you can work within the problem domain and make sure that the issue is fully understood before a solution is sought. And then another key capability is this ability to be like an expert, is ask the questions the company doesn't know yet. You've got access to such rich data around customers, but there are gaps. And can you have a virtual agent that understands instantly what are the gaps that need to be filled and be able to ask those questions without asking questions that are already known, where the answers, etc. So dynamically asking the right questions in the right order at the right time is critical in getting a richer understanding, but also ensuring the customer engagement experience is one that's rewarding for the customer. The next is that also being able to offer the right decision support at the right time. In other words, if I'm stuck on a website, being able to pop up and ask, can I help you? But I know that you've already come a certain distance. I know about you. I know the decisions you've already made. And so I can start where you are in that journey. I don't have to then take you all the way back and you have to then re-engage. So can you have the ability in context to give customers decision support? Can you also make sure that when you have worked out the solution, that you can pass that through to systems for straight-through processing, and you don't have to keep having humans in the loop and delaying that engagement journey? Another key aspect of these virtual agents is their ability to offer process and regulatory compliance, the assurance that your rules will be followed and that they can prove that those rules will be followed, so that your QA is automatically done. You don't have to have significant QA sitting in the background. The other is that these virtual agents need to be able to keep learning. They need to be able to understand which conversations are working, which solutions led to the right outcomes, and then to be able to adjust and adapt effectively without auto-adjusting or auto-adapting when the rules are in play. Giving the teams insights so that they can make decisions around should rules change based on the type of learnings we're getting. And also another key fact is, can they remain accurate when things change? One of the great challenges with these digital experts has been, once a process rule changes or product rule changes, and you've been using decision tree architecture or knowledge-based thinking, you are in a bit of a maintenance nightmare zone. Whereas can you be able to adapt your virtual agents' knowledge and understanding and capability dynamically when these rules keep changing and the data points change? And then finally, can these virtual agents work in harmony with the CX platform so that you can have straight-through processing? So this is where capability has moved within virtual agents. And what I'm going to now do is hand over to David. And David's going to walk you through what his company, who's a partner of ours, have successfully done in one particular use case. They've done many use cases, but this particular one, which we're going to be focusing on, is a large utility organization. And dealing with payments and collections and how they resolved some significant issues there. David, over to you.
Thanks, Ryan, and hello everyone. Nice to meet you all virtually, and thanks for the opportunity, Ryan. I'll be, if you can, sorry, I'm going to have to do my Matt Hancock next slide, please. Let me just very briefly introduce DigiBlu. We're long-time friends and partners of CLEVVA, and with our South African UK footprint. We are an intelligent automation specialist organisation, so we help transform enterprise-wide automation initiatives, probably most famous for our Old Mutual initiative, actually, in South Africa. In terms of my role, I lead our what we call front office digital solutions, and my background is 25 years doing customer experience transformation for big or FTSE 250 organizations, so big blue chips. I'll move on quickly to get to the meat of it, which is, I'm sure, what you're interested in. I'm going to talk about utilities and this utility tornado caused, in large part by the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the rapidly rising energy prices that are causing, a lot of angst amongst consumers. But I also hope that you'll find that this isn't, although this is a utility-specific use case, that anyone with kind of post-pay customers, direct debit-based customers, so that might be telcos or insurance companies or even media companies, will see the relevance of this use case in their organizations too. I hope you can read across. But for the utility specialists on the webinar, you'll know that customers are confused, concerned, and frustrated. They're kind of concerned because there's a cost of living crisis going on, and their energy bills have tripled, despite some government support capping that in the UK. And I know this situation, having talked across Europe, is very, very similar in all countries in Europe. Consumers are concerned about their situation. They're confused because the rules seem to change every 3 seconds. To Ryan's point about you need dynamic rules that change with government policy. That's absolutely the case in utilities, and I guess frustrated because as a result of this, people are calling more, they're talking for longer, and even in the UK, there was a campaign in September to try and get 1 million customers to cancel direct debits, which, if you're a utility person, is the most efficient way to deliver payment solutions, and also actually the best way to protect debt. So that's a big threat to utilities. And the last part is, with so many more people calling, you've got huge wait times in contact centers to talk to a live agent. So utilities really are under extreme pressure. Most that I know are hiring like Billy Owen, and certainly in the UK, there's really a bit of a talent challenge post-COVID too. So it's really quite difficult. And obviously these are difficult conversations, where we'll talk in a moment about the consumer position, but people are really struggling to afford their energy bills. So actually, there's this worry about service that utilities have. They've got a rising cost to serve, and actually the bigger issue, the biggest one that's sitting underneath it all, is if people can't afford to pay us, then we've got a real debt problem too. So this case study is going to talk about how we resolved all of those dynamics for a Big 5 utility in the UK. So just a bit of context for those less familiar, the ONS, Office for National Statistics, launched results of a survey. So 45% of households are finding it difficult to pay their energy bills right now. That actually goes up to 60% in the rented market, which is really, really significant. And just utilities from a context point of view, so direct debit reviews, so bills and payments, are relate, to about 1/4 of all contacts, and maybe even up to 30%. So it's a major demand driver if you're a utility person. And if we kind of step back from that and go just thinking about the human experience, to Ryan's point, these are complex, nuanced conversations, both about what my bill is, and energy bills aren't the easiest to interpret, and also just my situation and how affordable this really is for me. And the systems, utility systems are built for processing, to be efficient, because to get a bill out reliably is the core of a utility business, and therefore they're not built for agents to intuitively navigate through things. So there's some challenges there, and there's a whole bunch of complex policies which you really need to be an expert. So if you're hiring new people, trying to get them up at a competency curve, it's really quite challenging. And so you do have issues with compliance to policy, in a regulated market. And so because of that, all those factors, you really see, I can normally, on a direct debit, I can review my bill. I can do some very simple things to change it. But actually, there isn't really a self-serve capability in most utilities. So you can't read this. You're not meant to read this, but this is a high-level map of the decisions and the logic flows that are required in a direct debit review conversation. And this is the top level. There's levels that go in underneath this. So my point is, it's really difficult with normal systems to automate, normal chatbots to automate these types of highly nuanced, very complicated conversations. The game changer, which was behind what Ryan was saying, is if you can read the information that you've already got and auto answer all the questions, you suddenly know so much more about the context of the customer. You can then start to ask the right questions to lead to resolution. And the story I'm going to tell and some solutions I'm going to show you just how easy that is. So I'll show you a live demo of effectively the CLEVVA virtual assistant working in a moment. So at the heart of it, effectively is a chatbot, or what you would perceive to be a chatbot window, a virtual agent. And I'm showing you a picture of a desktop version, but you can also see, we can mobile optimize this. So if you engage via mobile, you fill the screen with effectively what is a chatbot screen. But to get there is kind of part of the challenge. How do you get customers to engage and use your virtual agent? And I'll talk about the deployment of the virtual agent in a moment. Well, in this situation, we put QR codes onto transactional mail letters so that customers could engage that way. We can put, if you've got email enrolled customers and you're emailing, you can put URLs onto the email inviting them to engage, and obviously trying to deflect demand away from calling us to not just contact us, but use this link to get into the virtual agent journey. We can do the same in WhatsApp messages and on the IVR in this case. We also embedded messages. So while people were waiting in the queue, they could request an SMS message or a WhatsApp message, and then would get a link that they could then engage in the virtual journey and hopefully resolve before they needed to get through to an agent. So that's kind of the customer engagement layer, truly omni-channel, and leading to either a website or a mobile phone engaged journey. The sort of the other nuance of that is that in the presentation layer to the agent, if you've got a chatbot already, most of them have kind of API connectivity, and actually the CLEVVA agent can embed itself underneath, so you can extend the use of your existing chatbot technology by embedding the CLEVVA kind of question and answer and knowledge flow underneath your existing chatbot. And that's a really interesting use case for those that already have chatbots. So you can kind of it doesn't replace, it extends the capability of your current engagement channel, so you haven't got to be dissonant with that. So I know I'm running out of time. So technically, I just want to say that, how do you get the customer context data into the virtual agent? We can do that in lots of ways, from a low-tech way with a flat file coming in from your systems to full API integration. And I'll talk about speed to benefit in a moment, which is key. And what we're doing in terms of the ability of CLEVVA to then hook in either via API or using your existing RPA type technologies is to take the resolution. So all that information we gathered during the course of the conversation and squirt it into your core system so that you can execute on the change to the direct debit. So I'm now going to move on, and just to kind of give you a sense of it, this is not, a year's program and lots of time and effort. This is, we tend to be able to get an MVP in production within about 8 weeks, and go through this kind of this process where we analyze and talk to your SMEs, unlock the logic and the policies and the process, and then get rapidly into an MVP deliverable that then can increase in sophistication over time. So, it's a very agile and fast process. So let me show you an example of the direct debit review. So if you can press play, Ryan, that'd be lovely. Thank you. So a customer is in arrears. So we're integrating here natural language understanding. If you've got an engine already, we can use it. If not, we can provide any of the major providers. We're just checking the intent. So yes, I did want to review my direct debit, and you can see some things on the screen that help us. We're doing some ID and verification here. Again, this can sit behind your firewall. So if you can be a logged on customer and not have to go through that, but we're just showing you that we can reach out to information and check it. And what we've done is we found Mr. Bloggs's details and his revised direct debit amount. Talked about the fact that he's in an arrears position, so he owes us some money. But what he doesn't want to do is pay that immediately because he's struggling with his bill. And you can see the choices that we're making. And what we've done here is embedded a negotiation loop into the thing. So we're asking the customer what can they afford. So they put in their desired amount, and then we're relating back to the policies that the organizations has, which is what an agent would be able to offer to a customer. In going through that negotiation loop, we're then getting to the best position for us and a position that the customer is affordable, and we're extending the terms out to that customer. He's just accepted the payment plan. We've avoided a call, and then that will go straight into the operating systems afterwards to effectively fulfill that, and you'll get a revised letter or email sent out with the revised details. Just to show you the same journey, so this is the same virtual agent, but this customer isn't in a debit situation. They actually have a credit balance, so they've overpaid in the last year, and they're going, hang on, I actually I wouldn't mind a bit of money back, or I'd like a refund, or or can I find a different way to reduce my bill and my owings, so that my outgoings. So here we go. We're going through that same kind of intent capture. We'll whip through the the kind of the account details, different account, postcode, etc. Getting to verification. We pull back this individual's customer's details. So we've got annual usage. We've got a balance in credit, a direct debit total amount, and they're saying, actually, what do I want to do? So in the main solutions that we've developed here, we've got a bit more nuance on what the customer wants to do that I'm not showing in this demo, but effectively we're also asking the same customer, what do they want to pay? Again, we'll go through a negotiation loop and effectively make sure that we're covering their current usage, planned usage, and also and that they can afford the bill. What you probably noticed from these interactions is it's a really simple process and interface. But in reality, this example, and please do play the collections example, Ryan, while I'm just closing off on the last one, is we make it super simple for the consumer, but actually there are 100 different routes involved in that journey that customers could go through. So it's really, really complicated, but because we can infer the information and data, we're able to make it super simple for the customer, because we don't need to ask lots of questions. So this use case that we're now going through, and you're seeing the same kind of verification at the front end, is around a customer that's missed a payment. So this is kind of moving from I want to lower my bill to actually I missed a payment. So we've got information on the account about the current direct debit, and they missed a payment. What we're asking now is, actually, why did the direct debit fail? Why didn't we collect the money? And then because we're going down that route, we're then saying, well, tell us more about that. So we're understanding, was it a one-off, or have I lost my job, or all those different things that might then start to affect the policies that we want to apply as an organization to recover that money. So what we've got this situation here, it was simply insufficient funds. So we're saying, what can you afford to pay us back? So we're saying, well, I could pay you an extra £20 a month over 5 months. Actually, that's in line with the policy that the organization has. So we've absolutely met the customer's requirement, and we're going to effectively say that's absolutely fine. Now, for those in utilities, you'll also know that vulnerabilities are a major issue from a regulatory point of view. So we're now going through an interesting exercise to go, by the way, have you got any vulnerabilities that we don't know about? So so we've asking some right questions that an expert would ask. And actually, a lot of people in the UK who are eligible don't claim the warm home discount, which is aimed at pensioners. So now we're going through, who am I? What am I? I'm not quite sure, probably because I'm a pensioner. So we're not saying you are, you aren't, but gives a direction. And then effectively we're telling people how to check whether they are eligible. So we've asked them to go and look at their letter and find the thing that tells them where they are, and now we're giving them direction to go and help them find, you know, a warm home discount and what to do, because as a utility provider we don't know that they're eligible for that. So that's just an example of a really nuanced journey around collecting money, which, you know, stops people going into long-term arrears. So trying to deal with early arrears and structure things that are helpful to customers. So the results of this for this big five utility, so, you know, transaction costs, you know, what does it cost for a CLEVVA interaction? Somewhere between 40 and 80p, depending on the volumes, instead of, you know, the cost of a phone call, which depending on whether you're onshore or offshore, you know, can be, you know, £2 to £5 maybe, in that kind of range. What we saw in terms of ROI, it's 350% ROI. You know, you're fully automating, you know, a significant number of interactions, whether they were chatbot interactions that you were handling manually or their phone calls. They're still expensive. We saw high consumer satisfaction through that journey. People were getting what they wanted. They were getting resolution and high containment, because, you know, I was getting what I wanted. And sort of the thing that can't be missed out is that, you know, the compliance is with policies is absolutely 100%, whereas, you know, you obviously will get errors with agents. I'm very conscious that I rattled through that quickly, but I just want to kind of reflect back on Ryan's offer, which is, you know, if you know, the very kind offer from us in CLEVVA is, you know, if you want to see what a virtual agent experience might look like for you to try and take the pressure off your contact center and also reduce your cost to serve and increase your service, then we'd be really happy to talk to you about that. So please just kind of register now in the webinar if you're interested, and you know, and I think Ryan's going to do a lucky draw.
Thank you, David. And to everyone, thank you so much for your time. In the chat, you'll see the link for the registration. So we will keep the channel open so that you can have a chance to do that. We really would recommend, if it is something of interest, that you do. We would love to showcase just how effectively you could handle these particular areas, but if it's a dispute, a payment or collection, it is significantly lower cost across all of your digital channels. So thank you so much for your time. I'm sorry for going over by a couple of minutes. We hope it was interesting for you, and we really appreciate you being with us. We will keep the channel open for the next 5 minutes so that you can participate in the registration, should that be of value. But have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.